Hello, everyone. Welcome to episode 3 of Tech Leaders in Middle East and Africa. Today, I'm joined by Elena Abboud. Elena is at the forefront of logistics transformation. As Global Innovation and Excellence Director at Aramex, she is instrumental to introducing cutting edge technologies from autonomous vehicles to next gen visibility platform and shaping innovation strategies that redefine how goods move across the globe. In a region that invests heavily in AI, data, and automation, logistics is no longer just about moving parcels, it's about creating predictive, intelligent, and resilient supply chains. In today's episode, we will dive deep into how Elena and Aramex are embracing this technology to lead that shift, how AI is redefining the rules of the logistics game, how GCC is a very, I would say, unique test bed for logistics innovation, and how the next decade will redefine the relationship between technology, infrastructure, and trade. Elena, such a pleasure to have you here.
Thank you so much. And thank you so much for having me. Honestly, what a great intro.
You?
I feel so instrumental to the company and to the field that I work in. Honestly, it's such a pleasure to take part of and being having this role in innovation and in process excellence when such a disruption to the industry is happening. And you can see not just from a year on year, the value that you can add and the things that you can achieve on, but more maybe from a day to day, even from a week to week, the big change and the big shift that you can have on the organization and generally on the industry itself.
Thank you, Elena. Thank you for the nice introduction. I guess let's start with the big picture. Um, Aramex, and with your very unique and instrumental role, I think you've been at the heart of logistics innovation for the good past of the decade. How do you see technology and especially artificial intelligence, AI? It's the talk of the town now, right? How do you see it changing the operations in logistics in the next 5 to 10 years, I would say?
I think the logistics sector with AI and with the different technologies is basically moving from being a very reactive industry to a very proactive industry. And this
Mhm.
is something I think you touched on in the intro. So we've always been looking at what happened yesterday. Why was this package delayed? Why did this package get stuck at origin and it did not reach the destination? But now with AI, we're going through a shift. Instead of asking why did this event take place yesterday, we're thinking about what's going to happen tomorrow. How can we fix or anticipate the volume coming in and prepare our inventory or our warehouse to be able to accommodate that? Next month, there will be a peak, Black Friday, and then you have the Christmas holidays. So, all of these different models and all of these different tools and technology play a big role in making sure we're ready to receive that instead of then going through the peak and on a day to day say, oh my God, this happened. What do I do now? How do I need to solve this issue now? No, you're ready. And even more than ready, you might anticipate things that might not happen, but you're just ready for all scenarios.
And that's the ideal case scenario you're working towards, I would say. Very interesting. And you answered my next question that I wanted to ask, so I'm just gonna skip it. I was gonna ask you if logistics is still viewed as just moving goods, or is it moving into something more data driven and technology based? But I think you just answered that.
So we hear AI, we hear data, we're always thinking about how to use it, how to embed it, but logistics will always be a physical industry. There's always a physical angle to it.
100%.
And moving good is like, if I'm going to take logistics and say, let's say it's a human,
Hmm.
okay? Moving good is your skeleton, it's your backbone. You need to rely on that. If that fails, you will fall on the ground. You can't walk, you can't do
That's the whole
anything.
basis of the industry.
Yeah,
You need to move the goods.
exactly. But data and AI is now becoming kind of the brain that's giving the orders to that backbone. And then definitely the employees and are basically the heart and the ones that are making sure that the backbone and the brain are functioning as they should and not collapsing or crashing among each other.
Understood. Elena, it's a bit of a sensitive question, but if you can share some examples of how you've implemented AI within Aramex that actually showed some tangible business outcome or a tangible ROI, if you want to call it that.
Oh yeah, it's a good question because actually I saw a report from BCG recently, and they highlighted that maybe 75% of companies implemented AI, but only quarter of that they got the value from it. So it's super.
I think even less than quarter.
Yeah, that's the beautifying the numbers. But it's really just about because AI is being driven a bit top down. It's being driven by we have to do AI.
Like
These
a mandate
big,
from the top.
exactly. Instead of just saying we should use AI where AI can add value. Take it where really it makes sense to adopt it, not just adopt it for the sake of adopting it. So, and it has shown great results in reducing fuel costs, reducing downtime for couriers, and increasing their productivity per task, or how many, let's say, shipments they can do per day. Definitely, we're still calibrating the algorithm, learning day by day how to even take that to the next level so that it's giving us a better scenario than what we had, which is relying on the courier's knowledge or the
experience of the driver.
Exactly, experience of the driver. But definitely, this is going to be a game changer. The second one goes back to the predictability aspect, which is demand forecasting and capacity planning, which complement each other. So you use it to forecast the shipments that would come in from the different clients you have and feed it into your capacity planning engine that would allow you to know how many additional couriers do I need in that peak season, or how many do I need to maybe reduce in low seasonality. And then third, and maybe this is just because it's close to my heart, I manage the Future Vehicle Program at Aramex, where we've been in the last 5 years testing and piloting the use of autonomous vehicles to deliver shipments to our customers. While still this is a bit nascent, but we learned so much from the different pilots we did that now we really grasp and know exactly where and which technology will add value and will really transform the logistics industry, maybe not in a year, but definitely in the next 5 years.
That's amazing to hear. And those two topics are also close to my heart and to what we do at Yango. We also work heavily on the route optimization bit because, again, we have the taxi business and other I would say, ventures in logistics. On autonomous vehicles as well, we do have our cute little delivery robots that can deliver food to people without any drivers or anything. On that topic specifically, because innovation is amazing, technology is amazing, but it comes with a lot of responsibility, right? Especially with AI, autonomy, etc. How do you balance that at Aramex? Like, how do you draw the line? How do you balance between how much to innovate versus the responsibility of using an autonomous vehicle from a safety perspective, from along those lines?
I think I'll answer this with maybe an example of a pilot we did recently in KSA. So we managed to do the first drone delivery for a package for logistics in Saudi Arabia. So the way we look at it is that, yes, it's something risky, it's something new, but it shouldn't be a stopper just because it's risky. We want to venture there if we believe this is going to be the future of the industry. We need to be ready. Maybe we might come to the conclusion that we're not ready yet, but we have the learnings, we have the capabilities that once it's switched on, we're ready to go there. So what we did is, instead of saying, okay, no, drones are too unsafe, I don't want to try this, we said, let's pilot it in the most safety-friendly route that we can find that is also adds value to our clients or our customers. So accordingly, we chose a route that was mostly over water, like 90% over water. goes from our warehouse, so we don't have to build a setup for takeoff that you'll use once just during the pilot. No, we want something that we would actually do.
Utilize
And we
existing
managed,
resources.
yeah, exactly. And we managed to teach people in the warehouse how to load the shipment into the drone, how to notify the pilot operator on how to use it. So they're already trained for when we're going to scale this up, they can do it. And it was to land at our client site, one of the biggest banks in Saudi. And so even by choosing that route, we also looked at different factors. So in spite of it being 90% over water, it was passing through the remaining 10 very highly populated areas. And this was very concerning to all parties, whether they were the regulators, Aramex, the technology provider, everyone involved. So what we did is we looked at different technologies, different drones that we can use, and we found one that would be extremely agile in a way that it can go under the bridges instead of over the bridges. And then we managed to lower, I'll use a technical word, but we managed to lower the sail level from sail 4 to a sail 2. So ultimately, you shouldn't use safety or these type of, let's say, justifications as a showstopper, but you should always plan for them and keep them in mind while you're choosing the core use case that you want to at first do the first test in. After that, you learn from it and you can take a bit more risks. The company and the stakeholders would feel more assured with you, and they would feel that, okay, you have the experience, you know how to do it. You can anticipate these factors and design your pilot accordingly.
And that's the right approach to take. I like specifically where you mentioned that it shouldn't be a showstopper. It should just be a important factor to consider because, again, we still need to innovate. So, interesting. You mentioned Saudi, you mentioned UAE. Maybe time to talk about this region as a whole. The GCC as a whole is investing heavily in innovation, AI. And it's no secret, right? Everyone knows that, even people on other parts of the world. What makes the GCC an exciting test ground for innovation, especially in logistics?
And that's a great question. And I think this is one of the reasons why a lot of, even though we're a global company, a lot of the pilots and a lot of the new technologies that we're testing, we do it in this region. It's mostly because the ecosystem works and it's set up for that. So regulators don't act as your showstoppers, since you like the world, or your enemies, but rather they're the ones investing, they're the ones facilitating, ensuring that you have sandboxes that you can go through. They are attracting the tech providers to come and invest in the area. So instead of you having to go and convince these partners of the ecosystem to come in and do it together, they're already here and they're eager to find the private companies and the collaborators that are willing to as well invest in that. So between the tech providers, the visionaries, or let's say the typical companies that also promote innovation like Aramex, and the regulators, you have the trifecta to move forward and actually implement innovation and not just use it as a buzzword.
Very, very well put. So, again, just on the GCC topic, very, very briefly, we hear a lot about the Saudi 2030 vision or the UAE National AI strategy. Does that, and you mentioned previously throughout our conversation so far, the top-down approach, the mandates, the government bodies who help, who facilitate. How does those visions or strategies of countries in the GCC affect your approach at Aramex?
They kind of set something like a North Star, if you want to call it, maybe. So, for example, we've been talking to all of the regulators about autonomous vehicles. We started these conversations really long ago, like 5 years ago. But now they're actually coming to us and saying, which routes would you like to have autonomous vehicles operating in the future?
Oh, so they're the one taking initiative.
Yes. So they're now basically doing the work for us because of these mandates, because of these bold strategies where technology, AI, innovations are at the core of it. And they know that they need to make it happen. So they want you to be a big player, and they don't want to set things up and then end up that people don't adopt it, because culture and people adoption is the biggest obstacle when it comes to innovation. That's from my view. So they're basically acting as the engine to their strategies, and they're utilizing everyone in that ecosystem to feed into the engine so that ultimately it works. And ultimately they reach the goal of that vision. And this directly aligns with a lot of the strategies that are um, drafted at the companies and the industry level. Also, because they're doing that, they're creating more competition. So people are attracted to the market. They're coming in, and the competitors coming in are big. A lot of them are also startups who are super agile, who come in with the tech factor, which is pressuring corporates to think about what can we do to make sure we stay competitive and relevant in 5 years. So that's also how it's indirectly influencing your strategy and the tools and the systems you're
So it's
adopting.
good pressure on.
It's good pressure, yeah. At least I perceive it as a good pressure because in my role it works for me. Maybe others don't, but definitely a good pressure.
Understand and agree, of course. Those crazy startups running around with crazy technology, crazy founders are definitely pushing everyone to innovate more and be better. But you also mentioned the point about we don't want to start with AI and then people not adopt it or companies not adopt it, which brings me to my next question. Every single company with some sort of size has started an AI pilot, and a very low percentage, I don't have an exact number, but I'm sure that only a very low percentage has managed to materialize this pilot into something usable, right? How do you, Elena, personally, and even at Aramex as a culture, how do you ensure to take those pilot innovations into day-to-day operation?
I think if you need to put it in one word, is need to design it from day one for scale. Because if you're just designing for the pilot itself, at some point it's going to reach a blocker that you're not anticipating. Especially for corporates, if this is something that's going to take off, you can't just say, oh, I'm just designing a pilot now. This is just a POC. I need to do 1, 2, 3, 4. And then you guys will use it, will test it, and will learn. And then we're going to do everything. You need to design it with the future in mind and with the scalability in mind without creating too many obstacles so that it doesn't actually come to life, the POC, because you will still learn from the POC, but I don't want to learn 100 things. I want to learn 20 things so that when I come back to management, when I come back to people who have been anticipating this and want to use it, say, okay, guys, look, I need to still design for 100 new things. So this will take a year and a half after we've done the POC and 6 weeks, and then no one wants to do it. No one wants to invest the time. Everyone wants things done now. So you need to find the right balance between still having a pilot, not over designing it from the start, but taking into account always that this needs to be designed in a way to scale.
Mm-hmm. And you're right, and they're right by wanting things to happen quickly because time to life is very, very important. Most projects fail in that implementation
Yeah.
period. They just fall out. I see this a lot because I help large enterprises and governments adopt AI on different industries and models. And when you were talking, I started smiling because I was literally explaining this to one of the large hospitals I'm working with right now on a pilot, that this needs to be designed for scale. Something on voice, and I told them it cannot be done over 5 people calls or something. You need to open it for scale, because let's say we do the POC on that small sample size. Even when the POC is done, you still don't know if this is going to work at scale. And yeah, so just a thought that popped in my mind while you were answering that question. This takes me to a natural question that comes after this: is what obstacles, regulatory, cultural, you mentioned people adopting, or technical, have you managed or had to avoid or jump over those obstacles to reach to the point where you are today?
I think depending on the project, one would supersede the other, but definitely culture plays a big role across any type of project that you do because you want people to use the tools that or the tools that you just built, the project that you've invested so much time to try and roll out. And if they don't trust what you do, and if they don't see the value of what you do, it will never be adopted. We've seen so many chatbots being launched and no one actually going in and using them or asking them one question. And then after that one question, they feel that, okay, this is really not useful. So, and a lot of times we still till now do so many trainings. We invest in a lot in HR and in training people in terms of how to use the techs that or the new solutions or systems that we've rolled out and on communicating that to everyone. Small tips and tricks like, did you know that you can ask this question to this tool? Just a constant reminder from time to time to ensure that keep on top of mind these new things. People are going to go with what they're used to. Routine. Everyone sticks to the routine. Yes, we want to use the new tool. We're so behind it, but then no one does. Unless you push them or you make them. And this is not even the right approach. It should come natural if you really train them and you invest in communicating that with them. So that's one. And definitely the regulatory angle. Sometimes, while we're blessed in the GCC to have really supporting governments with bold visions, it's not the same across all of the regions that we
No.
work in. So, and a lot of times we have to go through so many different hurdles. We need to explain, we need to reach the right people to be able to get to this go, no go decision. And this can potentially drain the stakeholders that are trying to push for this project, that it would ultimately lead to the project not coming to life. The technical part is, in its majority, I don't think it's as big of an obstacle as the rest. I would say sometimes data can be a bit tricky when it comes to data integrity or sometimes data policies, and also with the latest cyber attacks and all of these data threats, it's a really important angle and factor to take into consideration whenever you're designing your model. But I wouldn't say like technical skills. You can build a model in 1 week, especially now with the Gen AI. You can go and ask it anything you want,
Vibe
and it will
coding.
help you. Exactly. So yeah, if I have to choose two, I would choose these two, and I would say culture is definitely the biggest bottleneck that you need. Fast forward.
Yeah. Getting people to so a resistance to change is
Yeah.
what I like to call it. People are very resistant to change in anything. It's our nature as humans. So yes, those efforts of communicating, explaining how this tool will make their life easier if they use it, etc. Get them to get that aha moment, right? Okay, if I use this tool, then this is gonna happen, and then eventually, as you said, it will become more natural.
Mm.
But maybe in the next 4 or 5 years, the tech is gonna change.
Yeah, find your champions. I always say
Yeah,
try
yeah.
and find your champions because you can't advocate for everything you
Alone.
built yourself.
No way.
There's no way. So use them, use these early adopters, try to make them do the work for you, or you're really in a pickle.
Yeah, you need a few of those crazy people on your team that know the tools before even you know about them, and then they're telling everyone about it. I agree. I agree. We have a few of them on the team. So I want to move on to the next topic: ecosystem, collaboration, partnerships, etc. While us in big corporations, we like to do everything internally and stuff like that. It's almost impossible, right? So collaboration is very, very important when it comes to innovation in logistics or otherwise, right? What's your view about collaborating with tech startups? Okay, the small guys with crazy technology, agility, and innovation, or even larger tech corporations with more mature solutions but less agility again, governmental bodies, etc. That any company that will help you develop such solutions or innovations or help you reach that end goal, specifically in AI. What's your personal view on that, and how does also Aramex view that?
You definitely can't do it alone. You're going to be too slow. You need to rely on also people who understand specific topics more than you do. Even if you learn every day and you try to keep up, you can't unless you really have dedicated your time and energy to that one single topic. What the way we don't target specific type of company, so we work with everyone. We work with the corporates, we work with the startups, and definitely we collaborate with the governments. But maybe we look at two things in a partner, whether it's a startup or it's a corporate. I would say yes. Number one, reliability, because we can't fail our clients and we can't fail our customers.
How do you measure reliability?
Through pilots, through tests, by speaking to other people that they say they've implemented this with.
But that's a
Actually
problem with
getting good
startups. Most
feedback.
of them maybe have amazing tech, but don't have a lot of references, hence why they're a startup. So yeah, pilots is a good way to test.
Yeah, exactly. And this is what we did in the autonomous vehicle program. We partnered with more than 4 or 5 different companies until we came to the conclusion of, okay, this startup has this core strength versus that startup has this core strength. And ultimately, we now know more or less which one to use where, which one maybe we shouldn't collaborate with in the future. So pilots with startups are usually a good way to try and basically test the reliability angle. With corporates, it's a lot easier to go through really real use case experiences that they did, and if they're really able to show you the value that they brought into the company that they worked with. And I would say the second one is realness. There's a lot of fluff when it comes to AI. There's a lot of people doing the same thing over and over again, and they can't even differentiate between them and their competitors. So we look at real use. I want to see exactly, show me the model and how it ran on the data set. I want to see how we challenge them. So if I give you this specific use case or this specific challenge to solve, what should I expect? Can you try if I give you just a sample? I'm going to extract a sample from my system before I go integrate, before I go invest, before I put so much efforts and engage all of the stakeholders. I'm just going to give you a sample and I want to see
Show
the
me what you
outcome.
have.
Show me what you have. Show me the real deal. And you have it or not. It's super important because whenever something becomes a buzzword or becomes kind of a mandate that you need to follow, realism is the one that would really decide between a winning use case or a failed use case.
Very important, because it's not just about fluff, I would say. I would attribute most of that to founders and entrepreneurs being extremely excited and ambitious. So if you tell them, "Can you build me an AI agent that does X?" the answer will always say yes. They'll go back home and figure it out. Yes, we've done this for your competitor. They haven't, of course. They'll figure it out. Sometimes it'll work out, sometimes it's not. But yeah, giving them the data sets and the pilots is a good way to figuring it out.
We want them to figure it out.
Of course you do.
But not on our,
Yeah.
not after we come in and engage a zillion stakeholder and then they say, I promised I can do it, but actually we can't. So yeah.
It's a very thin line between those two things. So AI is evolving, automation is evolving, logistics is evolving, it's becoming smarter and more predictive every single day. How will that affect the role of humans in the logistics industry as it becomes smarter and more automated?
I think we should think about AI and the AI boom similarly to the .com boom. That's what I always try to tell people. So during the dot-com boom, all the headlines, if you look at the really old newspapers, you would see, is the internet going to replace humans? Is it going to take over our jobs?
Yeah.
And I say, AI is not going to replace your job. AI is going to replace two types of human tasks. First one is the repetitive task that doesn't add a lot of value. It's just something that needs to get done, and you need to do it frequently and you need to do it repetitively. But um, uh, it's not really something that requires a lot of human input to it. So definitely, this is something that AI is going to take, and it will allow these specific roles to move from operators to more of an orchestrator to that specific model that's running, looking at the outcome it gave,
Quality
and
control.
then exactly quality control of the outcome. The way we question ChatGPT, oh, send me the sources, so I make sure that whatever I'm reading actually makes sense or
ChatGPT
not.
hates me.
Same for me. Same for me. So that's one angle to it, and the second angle is it's gonna take over people who will not embrace it and will not learn it and will not try to understand it and will treat it as the enemy. And this is what happened in the dot-com era. Internet took over those that were very resistant to that change and did not learn how to use it. So they became redundant or secondary. And that this is how AI will play with the human role. But definitely, like I mentioned in the first part, it's all about us becoming more of a quality control agent to those outcomes, and even maybe trying to challenge those outcomes. We recently had a very interesting talk with a startup that I called what they're trying to achieve as what if on steroids. So they want you to test any what if scenario that might come to mind and show you in real time what could be the impact on your supply chain.
I love that.
I love it. I loved it.
Does it work?
We're still in very early
Okay.
talks. We're gonna see.
You should tell me after.
We're in discovery. I will definitely do, but really what they're trying to do is extremely interesting.
Yes.
And it can really transform the industry.
All unpredictable, yeah.
Exactly, yeah.
What if this happens? Okay. This is
And
the most-
even with synthetic data, it's not just with historical data.
Yeah.
So they're feeding the system some historical data, but they know that there's so many challenges when it comes to asking company for their historical data. So they're just saying, give me a small piece. I don't need everything. I don't want to boil the ocean of what happened before. And I will feed it synthetic data of specific scenarios that you might never think about, like COVID. No one thought that people are going to stay at home and
For 3
not
years.
yeah, exactly. So they will manufacture the data for these specific events and then feed it to the system. And then more and more you feed it as a user, it will create more synthetic data and it will learn on it.
Now I really need to talk to them. I got a requirement from a bank here where they want to build synthetic data for the UAE population because the existing data is done. They already trained the model on every single piece of data they can get their hands on, and they want to create synthetic data. So maybe a conversation with them is worth having. But yeah, very, very interesting use case. I just want to come back to one point because it pisses me off to my core. People who treat AI as the enemy, it's so futile, right? It's a system. Why is it so personal for you? It's fine. To me, maybe a few months back, only used GPT. Now I have around 6, 7 tools running on my laptop, making my life easier. Instead of working 9 hours a day, I do 3 now. And everyone in the company thinks I'm Superman. No, I just opened YouTube for 30 minutes and now I know how to make my life easy. Like, why are you against that? I don't understand it.
Because they don't know how to use them and they don't want to learn. And
But
they
that's the thing. It's not even hard to use. Like for a stranger, AI, oh my god, so complex. Those guys are very smart, etc. But no, we're not. It's made simpler to use. The guidelines are there. You can speak to AI like you're speaking to a colleague, like you're speaking to a human. So maybe it's our part to educate and just show that okay, few steps, few hours of work on learning how to use them, as you said, will make your life much easier for forever, hopefully. So I always like to end with a interesting question, and I want to pick your brain on that. What's if you would make one big bold prediction about AI by 2030? What would it be? Could be anything. AI agents, a change.
Look, I think the humanoid field will grow for sure. It will become a bit more successful with what it's doing. We've seen it. We had a lot of conversations that they were a bit too early to the market back then,
Can
3
you
years
tell
ago.
our viewers what you mean by humanoid?
So it's
We're not all as smart as you, Elena.
So it's the bots that you guys see in the conferences, the ones that
Oh,
you
okay.
like, the one that resemble a human. So the prefix is coming from the word human, and then it's complemented by the oid, which is basically
The robotic part.
the robotic part. But humanoids function. They don't have a brain. They have an AI kind of brain, if we want to put it in very simple terms. So what we're seeing now, their capability in doing specific tasks, it's still very limited. So you see one, okay, they can run, wow, amazing. But then if you throw one obstacle in front of it, it will trip.
Yeah.
So those have a huge, and with also the chips industry moving this fast and enabling a lot of quantum faster computing. So I don't use quantum computing as well. I can see a much drastic change in that specific field of AI in the next 5 to 10 years. Definitely.
Crazy. I was just talking with Julia about this before we joined. We started the podcast. I was like, she's part of Younger Robotics as well. So I was saying, where is the direction going for that? And she was telling me about physical AI, which is basically just that, giving a brain to those humanoids rather than pre-coding them. So if they see something, they won't trip. Or
Exactly.
yeah. So very, very interesting. And again, Elena, such a pleasure to have you here. Thank you so much for attending. Very, very valuable. I really enjoyed this conversation, even though it's 6 p.m. on a Friday. But again, thank you so much for coming.
Thank you. I really enjoyed it as well. It felt like it flew really fast. Honestly, I didn't feel like we went through all of these different topics. It was really fun, and I really enjoyed being here. Thank you for having me.
Thank you again.